live.
Yeah.
Let me see here.
Checking it out. This is the first time using this for a webinar, eh?
Yeah. We'll figure this out. It's making me redo a thing. Hey, there we go. Now it's out. Now it's out there. This is super weird. Oh, I probably got to go see this. Yeah. Apologies to everybody for me setting this up. I know how to like go live on here, but I didn't know how to do a webinar. And I wanted this to be a webinar because it's very specific and it's going to like live out there as a webinar. It's not just some, hey, here's a podcast and we're making some content. This is going to be like nuts and bolts. Here's what to do. Here's how to do it. Here's some resources that Shawn's got. We're going to get into it. Let me see how the heck this looks out on the interwebs and make sure that it's doing what I want it to do. And then we'll start. Hey, there we are. We're out there. Here's my request, you guys. This is a webinar, and there's going to be like resources and stuff that goes along with it. Tiffany says, we need you to do better. I agree, Tiffany. I think we are well aligned. Hey, good thing this is a 5-part series so that, I get 4 more chances to get this webinar thing dialed in. I found out Tiffany and Jeremy Jennings are 2 registrants that I saw because I found out 5 minutes ago how to enable registrants. So that's pretty cool. Learning. We're just learning. We're building that plane on the way down. We're learning stuff. But this is different than just any regular podcasty type of thing that we would do because we have like some specific things we need to get into. This is going to be, I won't say short form because I'm here. And so it's just going to go longer. That said, I got to freaking open up my window here. It's 1 billion degrees.
Hot in the bar tonight.
Dude, it's Minneapolis is just getting weird weather. Maybe if I have a drink of my ice cold beverage, I'll cool me down.
That'll help out. We're at 90 every day this week.
That's disgusting. I'm complaining, and it's like 78 here, and 78 too hot for me.
It's super humid. I mean, you step outside, smack in the face. You can stand there fanning yourself, and you'll be sweating in 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's like you're in a little convection oven.
Big time.
So here's what we're doing here, guys. Tiffany says it's 93 here, and now I'm just feeling kind of like a whiny turd over here because I'm complaining that it's like pushing 80 and it's humid out. I'm a bit of a polar bear. So here's the deal, you guys. I wanted to host this, and Shawn and I go way back, and so I invited Shawn to come on this webinar because in my exposure in my bookkeeping business and just in all the other companies that I work with and BS with in the podcast, I see this recurring theme that regardless of the labor market, I think I would argue over the last year, the labor market has changed in our favor drastically, and people are still complaining about not being able to find good people and not being able to keep good people. Both of those are problems. They kind of go hand in hand. And so Shawn and I have made a lot of content in the past about recruiting stuff, but it's kind of like random and in different places and on different shows. And we've done a couple like, here's what to do, but it's like 2.5 hours long. And so it's not like, oh, let me just go get that tidbit on this thing. And so we wanted to do a 5-part series that really hit on the 5 different components of a good recruiting and retention system. That way you have like those little nuggets on the thing that maybe you're stuck on. And so this is part 1. I'm going to quick like intro the 5 parts here. And then we're going to get into part 1. I say like, I'm thinking maybe a half an hour, but I come with a lot of questions and stories. And so we'll see. But I don't want this to be a normal, like home service happy hour podcast where it goes 2 hours. Like we're going to try to keep this short so you can consume it later. It's going to live on forever. We want it to be a resource you can keep going back to. So tonight is going to be all about your labor market. You can't, and this is a thing that drives me nuts, and I see it all the time, especially on social media, is people will be like, here's the thing that works in my market. Here's what you need to do. It's like, just like marketing, what's happening over there is not what's happening where you are. The place to post stuff over here is not the place that you post stuff over there. How you write a job ad over here is not how you write a job. There's just so many nuances in different labor markets that you can't just make it like a Facebook post and say, well, what are you doing? What's working? Oh, that works for you? I'm going to try it. And so we got to cover your labor market. We got to teach you how to figure out what the hell's going on in your labor market, what type of people are searching, who they're searching for, who your real competitors are, because they're not the same competitors you have on the marketing side of your business. We're going to get on into all that tonight. So the title of tonight's is, does your labor market suck or do you? We're going to figure that out. Shawn's going to show us how to do that. Episode 2, which I think we're doing next Tuesday, is going to be all about writing the right job ad to attract the right people and using some AI to do it. How do you do it to make it sexy and fun and make it not like a job description? It is an ad. You are advertising. These are customers of yours. They just happen to be internal customers instead of external customers. So that's episode 2. Episode 3, which would likely be the Tuesday after that, which I think is right before July 4th. So we're going to be like wearing American flags and cool shit like that. That's going to be all about, now you've got a couple hundred applicants because you listened to webinar 1 and 2. Now, how do you efficiently get through a couple hundred applicants? How do you screen them efficiently so you don't have to look at 200 resumes? So we're going to go over all the tools and tricks to build funnels to efficiently weed out those applicants and make sure that works for you. Again, all along, Shawn's going to be like giving tips and tricks and tools and resources that you can use to do these things. And he's probably got some deals. So if you don't want to do them, you can use Shawn to do them. Number 4, I'm probably, obviously I'm already talking a lot, but I'm the host. So here we go. Number 4 is something I'm really passionate about and I've really cracked the code on, which is group interviews. We all know no-shows are a huge issue. And by doing the first 3 webinar steps and doing group interviews, you pretty much alleviate the no-show issues that you've had. And man, if that was all it did, it'd be worth it, but it does so much more. So number 4 is going to be all about how to do a group interview. And I'm going to give you like the presentation that I do. And hint, it's a presentation. It's not a list of questions to ask people. It is a presentation. So I'm going to give you the formula to present to people your business and use group interviews awesomely. And then last is going to be like, so now you got all these people, you got all these great applicants and great candidates. So how do you use that so you never are short-staffed again? How do you use that to improve your culture, your leadership, your retention, and effectively your growth, right? If you have the best team in the world, it makes it a lot easier to grow your business. Marketing is important, but this is the linchpin. This is the thing that unleashes growth in your business, is the best employees in the world. Marketing gets really easy when you believe in the thing that you're selling. So 5 parts, we're going to teach you how to do it, and you can take it and run with it and go do it, or you can use Shawn to do it for you or help you along the way. How'd I do, Shawn? Did I set the stage?
Man, it lays it out just about right. Just about right. I can't think of anything else to add to that. I mean, we're going to talk, and the cool thing is, like Dan said, we'll be giving away some things and step-by-step things on how to do it, and it's going to be really cool. It's different. We don't usually give out a lot of tools when we talk about recruiting. I know you've got a lot of cool tools, but I've never really handed out a lot of cool tools. I've always given a deal here or there, or this and that and the other. But I've got some really cool things on how you can figure out your culture. And 3 things about every one of these, all five phases. Hell
yeah. Well, let's get into phase 1. Let's get into labor market research. Like I said earlier, 2 markets are alike. There are markets out there like, I was going to say no 2 markets are alike. And I was like, let's walk her back, Dan. You're getting a little carried away. But it is crazy. And I'll tee you up on this one, but I always just think back to like Minneapolis versus Cincinnati and how different, like 2 businesses, same business model. We ran both and we were doing everything the same, and they couldn't have been more different from a labor market standpoint and a recruiting standpoint. And it was crazy how different we had to approach those markets. And again, I just go to people blasting shit on social media saying like, oh, this works. You got to do this. You got to do that. And it's astounding how different it can be. So Shawn, why don't you kind of lay out some of those crazy nuances that you've seen, and then let's start getting into some ways we can do labor market research and really find out what the heck's going on in our market.
Yeah, I think you hit a couple of the main points as to why it's important to do it. And I think that's important to maybe underscore that one more time, where if you think that the markets are the same, they're not. And Dan brought one example, and I'll get specific about that example. Minneapolis, Minnesota, when we did research there for job titles and some keyword stuff, it told us general labor, general labor, general labor. Same company, same pay, same job position.
Was that in terms of like what people were searching for? Like that was the right. Okay.
Yeah. And we'll get into that really granular in number 2 with the job descriptions and stuff like that for sure.
Yeah.
Minneapolis, same company. It was the same company, same job position, same pay, same healthcare. Everything was identical.
Hold on. You just said Minneapolis. Was that one
Cincinnati? Cincinnati.
Okay. Okay.
Right. Different labor market. It said to do window cleaning or window cleaner there. Same company, different labor market. I talk about Debbie Sardone in the residential home cleaning space. Texas, they love the word maids. Buckets and Bows maid service. Maids on a mission, right? Tammy and Morris, customers of ours. Most other parts of the country don't use the word maids. It's a lot like, smack me in the face with a sneaker. I wouldn't know what the hell you hit me with. I buy tennis shoes, man. A soda, don't know what to even think. I don't know what it looks like. I buy pop. I have no idea. These things are the exact same.
And you're in the South, it's a Coke. Like it's a Coke. And then you're like, well, what kind of Coke do you want? And I was like, I don't know. I said a Coke. I felt like I pretty much read what's on the can. And now you just asked me a question. Like, I want the 11th one down. What do you mean? Which like how cold it is? What do you mean?
Right. And that's the thing. I mean, what we're doing is we're trying to research what lingo these people are using, these job candidates are using when searching. Just like you said, when they're on their phone, they're going to be typing something in Indeed or Facebook or Craigslist or ZipRecruiter, whatever they're doing on Google. 75% of people start their job search on Google now. So when they go into Google and do that, what you need to make sure that those are words you're using for your job titles and job descriptions, and it is different from place to place.
Heck yeah. I know you've gone into this before, and it might be cool to do some screen sharing here. And we are going to turn each one of these episodes into a podcast as well. So I'll try to, if there's a thing that's on the screen, I'll try to like describe what we're looking at. But I know when we looked at different labor markets, who our true competitors were on the labor side always astounded me, because we did window cleaning, we did pressure washing, we did maid service. And when we would be looking at job ads, the people we were competing with that were hiring most of that labor pool were not other window cleaners, pressure washers, maid services. They were hotel chains. They were manufacturing companies. They were food service companies. And that always kind of blew my mind, because we're so used to competing in marketing stuff where we're like running Google ads or doing Facebook ads, and our competition is like the people that do the same service as us. And our labor market competition was always so wildly different to wrap our minds around and actually like target the right stuff. Can you get into that a little bit?
Sure. There was something I thought of a little bit off topic, but I'll say it very quickly. There's a lot of, I think the marketing leads are starting to dry up just a little bit, and it's getting a little bit tougher. And you're hearing that, and I'm hearing that. And it seems like it's starting to loosen up, and you can get some application flow with recruiting. So we've talked about that. I can't think of a more important time to try to get your recruiting figured out, systems put into place, or outsource it so that you can focus like a laser on marketing, because you're going to need to focus on marketing more than ever since pre-COVID. And you're going to have to get used to that really quickly. And you probably don't have a hell of a lot of time to focus on both at the same time unless you have systems put together.
You want to hear something really profound?
Yeah, always.
The best way to market is to have something really good. The best way to market is to have something really good to sell. The person with the best employees always sells the most and always markets the best. A, because they're confident in their team, but B, because when things are tight, referrals are a huge driver. And you don't get referrals when you have shitty employees.
Yep.
When you have the best employees in the world, you get crazy referrals. People love to refer people. And when pay-per-click marketing isn't working as good as it used to, like, your referral game better be tight. Yeah. And your referral game ain't tight if you don't have the best team in the world. So everything revolves around your recruiting and your team. Your marketing gets so much easier when you have only A players and they go out and crush it.
Yep. So if we round about, and I love it, if we round about and talk about how do we compete against Amazon warehouse, how do we compete against even Walmart now that's paying $20 an hour and things like that. So outside of paying our employees more, in the job title and job description, I think there's something to say about people that have worked at Amazon and really were just a number. And really, they talk about their culture, but I don't care what you're thinking. Amazon cannot have anywhere near the closeness of culture to their people as a small business can, not even close. I can assure you that it's different. I've talked to candidates, job candidates that have told us that, because we do some things talking with candidates every now and again about what's going on. So I think it's really maybe a little bit nervous when you're competing against huge corporations with resources and tools that we can't even fathom, but it really is part of our allure. It's what, a small business is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I love small business. I don't like corporate stuff. Most of us got away from corporate stuff or didn't even go that way to get in this type of world that we're in. And employees want that same thing. They want that closeness. They want that culture. They want that vibe. They don't like the big, and look at college campuses, and they can't stand corporations, and they're out there, they just can't. Young people today are super anti-corporation. Give them a job, blue collar job that's going to help them up a career ladder. That's what I'd be putting in there if you want to fight against Amazon or the rest of these clowns.
And we run into the same with marketing, and we get in our own heads where we think our competitors have something to offer that we don't, and right. Maybe they do, but we forget the fact that we have tons to offer that they can't even sniff. Right? If you're a huge company, you have things you can promote that the small guy can't compete with, but the small guy has things that you can't compete with. Sure. And so again, this is like, we're going to get way into this in part 2 in the job ad segment. But you're just marketing. Like, you need to focus on the things that are attractive to you. And there's a whole lot you can sell to candidates about coming to work for a small company and what that culture can be versus being a number at a huge company.
Yeah.
Shawn, when you are, I think there's some resources on Indeed or ZipRecruiter, and this is where if there's like stuff you want to screen share, anything like that, go for it.
Okay.
Or just like give us the cliff notes. I think you've probably done it enough times. You can
anybody that wants some free information, I'll have it step by step so I won't be sharing my screen, but I'll give you the information.
Okay. So talk us through, let's say we're starting out, we're going to start hiring some people, and we want to know, let's start here. Man, should I be using, no, let me do that one next. I want to get into like where to post jobs in this discussion. But let's first start with, where should I look to even understand my labor market? Who's out there? Who am I competing with? How competitive is it? What are some good resources that you guys use at Hire Lead Chill and that you found where when you sign up a new client, you're like, we got to go see who we're up against?
Yep. One of the cool things is wages, right? We got to look at wages and make sure our wages are in line with all the tight knit industry that we're in the home service business. I don't come across a lot of businesses that aren't paying well anymore, just because of people like you, Dan, and some coaches out there, and Conquer, and all the rest of us that are out there trying to help everybody and going to conferences and doing those. Most of my clients that we recruit for are doing okay on wages, but every now and again, I'm coming across that $250,000, $500,000 business.
$14 an hour. We pay $14 an hour here. Yeah. And if you don't like it, you can't work here.
Exactly. So one of the tools for that, to check out your wages, I always believe it's good to look through the lens of the job candidate. So you can go to ZipRecruiter, and it's they've got just Google it. It's ZipRecruiter salary, and it'll pop up and say, what are you worth? So it's acting as like you're the job candidate going in to find out what you're worth, and then put in a couple job titles and see what the average pay is. Now, what'll happen is it'll pop up a graph, and it'll give like the low, and then the average, and then the high. Forget anything to the left of average, okay? We don't even want to look at that. We want to look at everything to the right, and you want to be paying as high as you can to the highest person in there. And that's what I would start with is that. And then the next thing I would do is I would look
not to knock off your stream
Yeah.
of consciousness. So you mentioned ZipRecruiter and I'm just thinking through the job boards, and I was going to get to that next, but we'll get back there. Does Indeed have wage related tools, and are they useful? I ask because I'm always leery of job board wage related tools of the lens of like, are they just trying to like pump up the candidate to make the candidate think they can get more money? But you said maybe it doesn't even matter because if it's what the candidate sees, it's what the candidate believes. And so it's what their expectations are. I don't know if it even matters.
One of the things you have to be aware of if you cruise through a bunch of job ads on Indeed or ZipRecruiter and you looked at job ads of your competitors, you'll probably find that everybody is bragging a little bit more than what they can pay. We suggest a range. Give me what give me what they're going to make for sure, and then give me what an A employee would make, because that's another mistake on this topic that we make is I always ask, what's your start rate? Well, we start at 15, but you can make 20. And why are you starting at 15? Are you looking for shitty employees? Are you looking for paying? Do you want somebody that's a $15 an hour employee? Why are you starting there?
Yep. That's
a mistake that I see day in and day out, every day of the week. And I have to explain that. I mean, it's an important thing. Don't put a job ad together to attract $15 an hour people.
Mm-hmm.
One good way of doing that is putting $15 an hour start.
Yep. Yeah. And it's as a finance guy, I'm cheap. Try to be cheap. But this is like the one area you can be cheap in so many other places. You can't be cheap on hiring the best team.
Right.
You are the biggest beneficiary of it. If there's an investment to make in a home service business, it's those people. They are your biggest expense. It's not your vehicles. It's not your marketing. It's not admin team goes in there, but it's not your rent. Like, these people are by far your biggest investment. So why would you get the shittiest thing when it's your most important investment? Like, your business is based on this. This is the thing your customers experience. This is the last place you can afford to be cheap.
Yep. I think a lot of it goes back to the mindset of just being burned so many times because you don't have a system put together and you don't have your recruiting stuff really figured out. And I get that. And again, I talk to a lot of people through those things, but you've got to go in with the mindset like, I am going to get the best employees I can. So it starts with the research. You go ahead and research your competition for this. Here's one. We talked about wages. What's your competition up to? And I do mean like window cleaning, lawn care, not Amazons of the world, but what are you seeing that if you read that job ad, and I say it like this, if you could pull up 4 or 5 job ads of your competition and then look at your job ad side by side, which one would you honestly tell your kid to apply to? And if it ain't yours, you got a freaking problem. You got a freaking problem. That's a simple way to, if you can be honest with yourself, that is all you need to figure out.
I love it. How do we know, this is kind of like back to job boards, but I'm not going to get into the job board specific stuff yet, but how do we know who our real competitors are? And you mentioned earlier, like, are they searching for general labor? Are they searching for window cleaning, maid service, lawn care, lawn mowing? Like, where do we go to find that out? Where do we go to figure out who we're up against? So, and frankly, like, not who we're up against, like, oh man, I'm scared they're big, but who we're up against, like, I can target the people that are looking for them because people are looking for them. Let's get in front of them. Again, I assume we'll get more into that in job ads, but how do we figure that out? And then how do we figure out how we're trying to target them, what it is that they're searching for in our labor market specifically?
Yeah, I think that one of the best tools is Indeed's got something called Hiring Insights. And if you go in as an employer, it's under analytics, and I'll get you this for free. And then you just go into Hiring Insights. It'll literally tell you based on their data, not ZipRecruiters and Greg's, but their data, how competitive your labor market is. And they've got a scale, and it's from like 50 to 100. Closest to 100 means you're super highly competitive. And we'll talk a little bit about that on the next webinar, but that's one way. In that Hiring Insights report that they give you, it gives you average wage. It'll tell you the top 10, or depending on how competitive your labor market is. If you're in a rural area compared to Chicago, it'll be a little bit different. But it usually averages about 10 of your competitors that are getting the most clicks on Indeed for their job ad. That's super potent, man. That's super potent.
Yeah.
So what that tells you is who's basically boosting and sponsoring the most, because it's just an auction. That's all Indeed is. It's an auction. So if you're boosting and sponsoring higher dollar amounts and budgeting higher dollar amounts than those top 2 or 3, you're almost for sure going to steal application flow from them. That's how to look at it.
Yeah. Is there a similar thing about what those companies are posting or what those keywords are that correspond to what it is that they're, I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but like what it is that they're seeking?
Just to the left of that information, the companies that are listed that are getting the most clicks, just to the left of that on this Hiring Insights by Indeed, you're going to see the top like 10 to 20 keywords that you should be using on Indeed in order to create more application flow. And those are the keywords that are coming in that are getting typed in by candidates and also put in. And it sort of, that's how the algorithm is spewing out these keywords. And it can change a little bit if you're not keeping on top of it.
And is that where you mentioned earlier, like I think it was Minneapolis where I probably got this wrong, but Minneapolis window cleaner, Cincinnati was general labor or vice versa.
Yep.
Vice versa.
Exactly. That's exactly what we did. Yep.
And so like that's where you can see what people are searching for. And all of a sudden you unlock that and it's like application flow starts piling in because nobody in Minneapolis is searching to be a window cleaner.
Right.
Who the hell searches to be a window cleaner?
Right.
Does anybody even know that that's a job to go search for? I don't think they do. It makes sense that they would search for general labor. It makes me wonder what the hell's wrong with people in Cincinnati. What kind of water are you guys drinking out there?
Cincinnati's a different bird, man.
Crazy bang. Yeah, I know that after running a business out
there.
Yeah,
right.
When you talked about that, like that wheel of competitiveness, like the competitive score. This is just me being totally curious. How have you seen that change over the last 12 months? Because we've definitely seen an ease of the labor market. Like, is Indeed reflecting the ease of the labor market? If you looked at Minneapolis 2 years ago, I got to imagine it was like a 101. Like it was I know there are cities that are tougher. Seattle and Salt Lake City, I think were really tough to recruit in, if I remember correctly. But have you seen those scores like come down to reflect that it's easing up, it's getting easier?
Not really, because those scores are telling us compared to other geographic areas of the country.
That makes sense. Yeah. So our area's gotten easier, but all those areas have gotten equally easier. Correct. So we're still a hard labor market.
Yeah.
It is interesting to me, and I don't know if this is out there, but I just remember we used to plan on spending $1,000 per an employee, and now it's in Minneapolis. It's probably down to like a few hundred to 500, I'd say. And it makes me wonder. Like, I recall a day where this sounds like I'm standing at a podium. Like, I remember a day where you used to be able to post a job ad for free.
I have a dream.
Yeah. I remember a day. Antonio's in the house. What's up, Antonio? He called you Mike, though.
That's Mike. All right.
Teresa is in the house. What's up, Teresa?
That's all that matters. Now we're done.
Yeah, now we're good. That matters. Teresa's here. Antonio likes my profession. Just speak it. I'm speaking it. No, but it has been interesting watching like coaching clients of mine and bookkeeping clients of mine where it's just like, things just got easier. At a high level, and I know we're going to get to this in future webinars, but aside from just labor market research, like, a lot of labor markets eased off. I found, this is just for my bookkeeping business, I found it that much more important to use a recruiting service this year. I think we got 500 applicants for one account manager role. I don't have time to effing go through 500 applicants, Shawn. And I still remember when you started Blue Skies Recruiting and we were at a leadership event. I'm sitting next to Jonathan Maynard and Andy Mashura, and there was a gal just giving you hell on Facebook because you got her 300 applicants. and she didn't know what to do with it, and she was pissed. And you and I were like pissed that she was pissed. And in hindsight, I'm glad she was pissed, because what would I do with 500 shitty applicants? Now, I've already hired 4 of those people. I have 4 more like that I really want. I'm layering it in. I talked about this capacity and demand layering on my radio show earlier today. But that labor market easing up has created a totally different labor market problem. And it's eased a lot of us into thinking that recruiting is easy again. But man, I don't want to look through 500 applicants.
Yeah. It's as I say, it just came to mind when we were talking at the top of the hour here, was marketing. Finding leads are getting leads are much more expensive. They're a lot more expensive. We've talked to marketing agencies and marketing people about that, and they're drying up a little bit. Well, I mean, you'll still be okay if you're doing the right things and you've got a good brand and you're taking care of clients, but it's getting a little bit tougher where if that's now becoming an issue, you're going to need to spend more time with marketing stuff and sales stuff. So that tells me that you better have systems put in place, or outsourcing your recruiting, or getting a VA to help you or something to ease up the time that it takes you to do the recruiting, so that you can make sure that pedal on the marketing, the demand side, is still going.
Yeah. And I want to wrap this up. We're hitting the 30-minute mark, and that was my goal, is I want to keep these babies 30 minutes. A couple thoughts. One is, we need to do more marketing. And so recruiting, we sure as heck ought to automate so we can spend more time scrutinizing our marketing. One misconception that I see is people are like, well, I don't need to spend as much time recruiting because I don't have the need for as many employees. And recruiting is multifaceted. If we do it really well, retention is really high. And retention starts with recruiting. Retention doesn't start with leadership. Retention starts with recruiting. You got to go find the right people. And I talked about this earlier today. I'm going to talk about when I do group interviews and we do culture stuff. But you need the cream of the crop. You don't just need the cream. You need the cream of the cream. You need to have a huge wait list where you can cherry pick the best people. Super important. We're going to cover that in future webinars. But you can't just stop recruiting. Shawn, you always say ABCs, always be recruiting. Yep. You can't just stop recruiting just because marketing became hard, because 3 people could quit tomorrow. You still need to replace people as you have turnover. And that's actually the thing that kills your business the most.
Yep.
That's when you lose the most customers, is when you don't have the capacity. And then it's really hard to get those customers back, because those were the customers that still were buying from you. And now they're gone. And now you're even in a deeper hole. So it's like, you really can't afford to not have a bench full of people. And now's the right time to build it. Labor market wise, one last question for you, Shawn, and then we'll let people go. And I'll tee up any resources you got. You kind of mentioned a couple things, but before we do that, high level, economically, what are you seeing, kind of broad strokes across the country? Like I said earlier, it seems like the labor market's easing up. It seems like application flow is much higher than it's been. What are you seeing nationwide from a labor market standpoint?
Yeah.
Are we in the clear? Is the labor market good? Or is it going to get worse? Is it going to get better? What do you think?
The labor market has definitely softened up, so application flow should be a little bit easier. I've said this since COVID, that we were lingering around 3.5% to 3.8% forever for the last 3 years. And I kept saying unemployment rate. I'm sorry. Yeah. And so as I was talking about that, I said, when we get to that 4% mark, we're going to start to see easing and more application flow coming in. And that's exactly what's happening. Now, the strange thing about that is the government is adding a ton of jobs, which is sort of making that 4% maybe a little bit lower than what it could have actually be, a little bit higher than that. But anyway, with that, that's a whole different story. With that said, I think we're going to hold steady there for a little bit, because CPI and the inflation stuff is starting to not go up like a rocket anymore. It's starting to level off. And if you look at any graph, you take a look at inflation and unemployment, and those things go hand in hand a lot of times. So I think we're starting to level off and getting a sort of a bit of normalcy. The couple things that could screw that up, and you would think one would be 2 wars going on, but that hasn't done it. So that's, that's unusual.
Yeah.
God forbid we have anything else happen. But the other thing is we've got obviously November, we've got a presidential election coming up, which, can really do some weird things to the labor market. So we'll have our hands all over it. And if I see anything crazy, we'll let you know. But that's in general, that's what's going on.
I don't know the right words to say about this. I don't know if I'm impressed or surprised, but I'm a little bit bamboozled. That's the best word I can come up with. It's strange to me that things aren't worse. Like signs pointed to bubble, signs pointed to, and some of them still kind of do. But signs pointed to like hard recession coming.
Yeah.
And maybe the Fed's just gotten a lot better at not like overshooting it. I think in the past they would overshoot interest rate things. And this time they kind of like, and then like the minute you're like, oh my God, it's getting bad. They're like, oh, just kidding. And then they just kind of like hang there. And like they let the certainty come back into the market. And it really seems like that's what the market wants, which is funny because that's what our customers, our employees want, is certainty and good expectations. Like you always used to say when we ran maid service businesses, like we can't serve them a steak when we told them we were going to serve them a Big Mac. Set the expectation and serve what you said you were going to serve. They don't need a steak. They came to buy a Big Mac. People love Big Macs. That's what they came to buy. Things that are actually worse if you serve them a steak. And so much of it is about setting expectations. And it makes me kind of wonder if the government's like, either they're so slow moving that they can't move them fast enough to do anything anyway, or that they stopped overshooting it because they realized like, let's just not like, we can create some tension, but then we got to like let the tension ease and hang there for a while, right? We can't like let gas prices go to $12 a gallon all of a sudden. They might get there someday, but we just got to ease into it. And then it's easier for us all to deal with. We can handle that. We can't handle the abrupt, like, whoa, then we all clam up and stop spending money.
And we got to remember where the root of that was, though. That it was all rooted in COVID. I mean, when the supply chain went to hell and all these things started, I mean, it's really a lot of, and COVID, it seems like it's 10 years ago. It was a couple years ago. It was like 4 years ago, 4 years ago. That just, we're just a resilient country, and we're just freaking awesome. That's all there is to it.
It does seem weird that it was 4 years ago already, though.
Yeah, but it's like that's what happened, and they dumped a bunch of money. We took it, and then it dried up, and we're going, what the hell are we going to do? We don't have any more money left, and now we're kind of we faced that about 6 months ago, a year ago, and now we're kind of, that smacked us a little bit. And now the demand for stuff isn't quite as high as it used to be, but it's normal. I mean, it's the unemployment on average is like 5.5%. We're not even near that. Interest rates are lower than they are historically.
Still lower than historical averages.
Yeah, that's why we're still okay. We're not okay when it's 18% like in 1970s. That's a problem.
Yep. Yeah, it is weird. Part of it too is we all got a little bit used to 2020, late 2020, 2021, and 2022 demand. Yeah. And those growth rates, right? Yeah. Which were just super artificially inflated by government throwing money at all of us. Yeah. Throwing government at small business owners, which helped us market, throwing government at homeowners and parents and blah, 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 blah. And so people were spending that money. That money's gone. And now everybody's like, oh, maybe back to normal. But it still feels shitty when we all look at our growth rates and we're like, wait a second, right? Because we're just conditioned to be like, oh, well, we should grow at 40% every year because that's what you do. No, good stuff. Let's wrap this baby up. Are there any specific, you had mentioned just some like resources and stuff available to people so that they can go research their labor market? What do you got? What do you got in mind?
I've got two different things. One is we'll post my calendar. If you want to hop on a call with me, I'm not going to say a damn thing, but if you want to hop on a call with me and talk about your recruiting and what's going on with it, I'll go step by step and I'll show you right there how to do your labor market research. And if there's some other things you want to talk about with recruiting that you think you've got, need to get dialed in better, I'll help you with that. I'll talk to you. My calendar's open. And I'm willing to talk to people. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is I will have a link for you posted by tomorrow where you can do this. If you don't want to, if you don't have time to set something up with me and you want to do it at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night, I will have a step-by-step how to research your labor market.
Hey, you want to know something cool? You want to know something cool? I have your calendar saved for like when I need to.
Is that the right one?
I think so.
That's
higher lead chill 30-minute 1 month June 2024. I think I've got the right one. I hope it's the right one because I already posted it.
I don't know. Let me see.
Let me drop it. I dropped it into the YouTube chat. I dropped it into the StreamYard chat. Let me drop it in the Facebook chat. Going forward, you guys, I'm going to do like at least 2 to 3 times better, if not like 10 times better, of creating the right StreamYard link for a webinar so that you guys can register in advance and get reminders. And then we can put the resources out there too, which is kind of the whole point of doing a webinar. Dan sucks at hosting things and he's used to doing podcasts. So here we are. We're still going to do these live. I want you guys to be like, share this thing and comment on it and all that stuff. Like there's a lot of value to be added here. Again, normally when we get on here, we BS all over the place. Rob says lots of disappointments if you post the wrong link. I didn't post the wrong link. Just the link that I posted wasn't set up correctly. So it didn't like remind people and save information and all that stuff. But I'm learning. It was webinar 1. We got 4 more to go. I got 4 more chances to get this thing right, which is probably about par for the course for me. I probably need about 5 goes at something to get it right.
Real quick tease for the next one. 2 weeks from 2 weeks on a Tuesday, I think it'll be. We'll promote it. But writing job.
Aren't we doing next week? Don't we have? Oh no,
we're
off next week.
Yeah, I think you've said every other week, every 2 weeks.
Sure, if I said so.
I think so. So
yeah, you're right. I'm looking at my calendar. That's what we got. Yeah, 2 weeks out. For some reason, I was thinking it was every Tuesday, but you're right. Next one is Tuesday, July 2nd.
You got it. Writing jobs and using ChatGPT. But I'm also going to tell you that if you relied solely on ChatGPT, you're going to decrease your application flow. And so make sure you make a reminder to be on that webinar, man.
Yeah, and I'll set it up right, and I'll actually like post it correctly so y'all can jump on it. It'll be sweet.
And you'll have an opportunity to reach me after that one too, and I'll do your job descriptions live with you, one-on-one if you hook me up. Yep. Not live. No, not live. But I mean, one-on-one on a book an appointment with Shawn and I'll do it.
All right. I dig it. Let's wrap this baby up. Shawn, you're the man. Thanks for giving us all your time. And like I said, normally I'm just out here like creating content, BSing, but I appreciate just like knowledge. Let's do it 4 more times. How does that sound? Are you signed up for that? You on the hook for that? Business nerds, Teresa says, see y'all in 2 weeks. Heck Absolutely. Yeah. Because it's Wednesday night, and so I'm not doing my normal podcast tonight. We bumped Chad Murray, my guest for the podcast, to tomorrow night. So I'll be back here drinking beer tomorrow night, doing my normal BSing for way too long, all for your entertainment pleasure. In the meantime, as always, you guys know what to do. Work smarter and harder. Go earn yourself some pride. Shawn Day, you the man. Peace out.